again, obviously opening remarks is, how happy we are to move up, um, to break recent tradition. So we know that moving up from 7 to 4, it was a huge deal for our organization and for the city of Chicago and the fans of the Chicago Bulls. So we extremely happy, and we're going to select a player that is going to help us next year and in the future for sure.
Okay. AK, thank you. We'll go ahead. First question here is Joe Kelly with the Sun-Times. Go ahead, Joe.
Arturas, how you doing?
How you doing, Joe?
Good. Hey, a couple months ago, you guys talked about how you have at least 4 guys coming from different organizations. 3 outside of the organization, the current guys that have stayed in there. How has that helped getting different opinions, looking at different draft boards, looking at different tape that other people had, and putting that together? I mean, does that kind of jive with hey, we've got 3 minds better than one type of mentality?
Yes, of course we getting together. I mean, we're already meeting every week, discussing draft board, and obviously it's going to help moving from 7 to 4. But still, uh, all additions in front office, they're going to bring best practices from their teams, and we're going to settle what's going to work for us, and select the player on October 16th.
All right. Next question comes from Jamal Collier with Chicago Tribune. Go ahead, Jamal.
Hey, Arturas. You guys had, obviously some success during the draft at your time in Denver without even having a draft pick this high. I'm sure you don't want to give away all your secrets, but just kind of what do you think, what can you allude to that kind of gave you success for in the draft, and why do you think you're going to be able to sort of replicate that coming?
It's kind of, Jamal, it's hard to explain. Obviously, I've never picked that high as well, so I'll let it always play out, because we're doing a bunch of rankings, and by the time the draft comes, we have our draft board, and a lot of opinions, and then minimize the noise and pick the player that best available on the board. So that's going to be the strategy. And there's a bunch of things happen during the draft. So you're going to go move up, you're going to move down. Who knows? So there's going to be a lot of conversations with other teams, and it's exciting time.
All right. Casey Johnson with NBC Sports Chicago is next.
Hey, Arturas, how you doing? Obviously, a pretty unprecedented draft process you guys are about to embark on. I know there's talk of virtual combine, et cetera, but how will that complicate things, make things more challenging, or does that make more of an opportunity for you guys?
Well, again, I've said in the past, I like to evaluate players live, 5-on-5, which we had a chance this year, the season that was cut short. Then combine, then going through a bunch of interviews. We actually did a lot of Zoom interviews so far. We'll see what the NBA is going to come up in terms of virtual combine. That will be a combination of obviously physicals and testing, and again video interviews. So just going through the process, I think it's going to help us, to get to last week before the draft, when we're going to come up with the consensus. We spend a ton of time with video. We spend a lot of time with interviewing prospects. So it's gonna be, the consensus is going to arrive, but it's going to be probably more clear with a week to go in the draft.
Next up, Mike McGraw with the Daily Herald.
Curious, when you were in Denver, what was your experience like with scouting? Would you go out and see a lot of guys? Would you go overseas, since that's what your kind of what your background is? What much time would you spend on the road when you're in that role?
Well, no matter the position, I always scout it live, and want to always to see a player at least twice during the year. So besides the video, besides the interviewing, besides the seeing them in combine and bringing them for workouts before the draft, I like live scouting. Like to see prospects live, and so no matter what, you got to go see him. It's going to be limited time now because you don't see him fresh. We haven't played basketball since March, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Our next question comes from Cheryl Raystow with WBEZ Radio.
Arturas, since you jumped from 7 to 4, can you
I jumped, yeah.
well, can you decrease the number of prospects that you have to look at because you have a number that's smaller?
Yes, so we continuously work on our trap board, and by moving to the 4, obviously the group is going to get smaller. However, I think going from team to team, the consensus is going to be very different. And again, going back to that, they haven't played since March, so people gonna have different evaluations of each player, and opinions gonna vary. So there's a lot of opportunity in that environment, I think. Hopefully at 4, we're going to get a very good player.
Rob Schaefer with NBC Sports Chicago is up next. Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, Arturas. I'm curious. I know it can be rigid to speak in terms of positions these days when you're evaluating players. But I'm curious, in your evaluation of the Bulls roster, what are some skill sets that you think this roster needs that you might be able to address in the draft where you guys landed?
I think you address by selecting the best player available. I think, especially at the 4. I don't think you address needs at the 4. You get the best talent. So that's what we're going to be looking for, with the highest upside player. So, on October 16th, you'll see who it's going to be.
Thanks.
Casey Johnson's up again. Go ahead, Casey.
Arturas, we haven't had a chance to speak with you since the league and the Players Association announced those group workouts that you were so hopeful you were going to get. How, if at all, will that impact your coach search? Is that something you'd want a head coach in place by? I know you said you're going to not hold yourself to a timeline, but would it be ideal to have a head coach in place in time for those activities?
I mean, we're excited to get those activities, and players that I talk to, they miss group workouts, which that's going to be presented. So, but we're not going to put a pressure on ourselves to hire a coach by then. If that happens, it happens, but we're not going to insist on that.
Darnell Mayberry with The Athletic has our next question. Go ahead, Darnell.
Thanks, Matt, and congratulations, Arturas, on
Thanks,
moving up. My question is about the timeline. I mean, generally, we know kind of what the calendar looks like with the combine here in Chicago and that sort of thing. You guys out scouting, bringing in players for interviews. Could you just give us an idea of what your staff's calendar looks like now, from now until October?
Well, the only thing we have is the bubble that we're getting in market. So those days were publicized. I think we get that bubble from September 21st to October 6th, and then it's going to be 10 days till the draft. So those are basically the only dates that we have now. The other dates are all up in the air.
And just as a quick follow-up, I'm curious, will you be able to bring players into town? Is that all up in the air? What does that look like?
It doesn't seem that way. We're going to be informed by the league what the virtual combine is going to look like, and how long it will take, and what the process is going to be. So we're still waiting for information. So it's still to be determined.
Thank you.
Got it.
We've got Mike McGraw again with the Daily Herald. Go ahead, Mike.
First, can you tell us anything about the timeline of the coaching search? Have you interviewed anybody yet? Do you know when you'll begin?
No, timeline is, again, I said we're not gonna, gonna have timeline. We started already the search, but we haven't interviewed anybody, so that's where we at.
All right, Casey Johnson again. Go ahead, Casey.
The annoying guy with 3 questions. You kind of joked that it was a weird experience to have no control over this draft lottery. What was that experience like, sitting up there at the Advocate and kind of watching the telecast? And did you have a lucky memento or anything, or just kind of sitting?
Oh, I had advantage. I had advantage of 15 seconds ahead. So when I heard, everybody in the room couldn't hear because on TV there were, it was a delay. So I knew that, when they named who's at 7, and it wasn't Chicago Bulls, so I knew that we definitely moved up, and just didn't know that we moved up to 4. I was obviously hoping for top 3, but it was great news.
Darnell Mayberry, Mayberry again. Go ahead, Darnell.
Yeah, Arturas, just since you mentioned it, I was curious about, normally they have people in the room watching the lottery actually be drawn. Did you guys have a representative in there this year, and who would that have been?
No, we didn't have it. So I guess I was representing our organization on virtual telecast. That's about it.
So was there, and maybe this is a better question for the league, but teams didn't have representatives watching the actual drawing this year?
No, I think they recording it, and they're gonna send it to teams.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? Oh, here we go. Jamal, go ahead.
Yeah, we just talking about all the different ways that you have to scout players virtually, and you talked about already starting some of that process already. I mean, what do you think that's going to do to the draft process? I mean, this seems like it would make it just more inaccurate, or more of like almost guessing. Do you think how much of an effect do you think it's going to have on you guys' prep?
Well, it's probably just going to be a difference of opinions from team to team, which creates opportunities, so that's the way I'm looking at it. I don't think it's going to be better or worse. I think there's opportunities there, and we're going to take advantage of them. I just think that there's going to be just variation in opinions of, some teams going to look at that player at the 4, or, some teams going to look at him at the 18. So there's going to be just a difference in opinions.
Thanks.
JC, go ahead.
You guys, as of right now, obviously don't have a lot of roster spots, and certainly that can change. But you've also had success in Denver with second-round picks, and I think your second-round pick went to 44.
Yep.
So is that without revealing anything, is that maybe a draft and stash philosophy? How are you going to approach that second-round pick?
Well, KC, you're going to have to wait until October 16. And yeah, I mean, the way I approach, the draft is there's a ton of opportunities. You're going to take 100 calls. Possibly nothing is going to happen, and you're going to stay at the 4. You're going to stay at the 44. So it's just an exciting time, and to make your organization better that night.
Thank you.
Hey, Bulls fans, thanks for watching. For more videos, just check them out right here.